Eilley Bowers back to the town that they both knew so well.
Mrs. William Sharon. So nice to see you, dear. You know, I'm probably not the one that should be telling you this, but your husband, while you've been away, has been keeping some bad company. I highly recommend you keep a tighter leash on the man.
Why, there you are, Dan Quill. I heard you were back at the Enterprise, and I so enjoyed this place. Mark Twain sent me a fine bottle of whiskey. Come by and we'll celebrate.
In my time, I was the wealthiest woman in these United States, and owner of the Bowers Mansion. My name is Mrs. Eilley Bowers, and my friends, they call me Eilley.
In my time, I was a working girl, the most famous of all the Comstock prostitutes. My name is Julia Bulette. My friends, they call me Julia.
I hated you!
I dare say we often meet, but you aren't so nearsighted you've never known me.
I'm not nearsighted.
I beg your pardon. I thought you were.
Oh no, I'm not nearsighted at all. I had a distinct pleasure in cutting you some time ago.
Well then, just give my regards to Mr. Bowers, if you
Lily, have we changed? Look at the stench of that Bulette woman in my nostrils, and it's making me ill. I've got to be rid of it. You know, we Scots have such a terrible violence in our soul. I think that's why I cannot stand the likes of that woman. But you know, her manners are pretty enough, but her morals are detestable. And that is the most dangerous sort of society. Well, we are very dangerous here in Virginia. Very, very bad indeed. Oh, Eilley Hunter Cowan Bowers. But I'd just as soon be forgetting the Hunter Cowan part of all of that. Oh, up we go there. Thank you. Oh. I was very poorly converted to Mormonism, you know, at a young age. It was a means to escape the poverty I faced if I remained in Scotland. So I married Mr. Hunter, the missionary. He became a bishop, no less. Where did you go? I thought you were listening. So we came to America. when he began collecting wives. Nieces. He called them his nieces. Staying out all night with his nieces? Wanting to bring his nieces into my house? Nieces indeed. It was a very messy bit of early church history. Those were terrible years. So you know what I did then? I married another one. Yeah, Mr. Cowan. He was a slow, easy-going sort of man. I thought he'd be easier to manage. At least he didn't have any wives. So, we left Salt Lake and we came to the colony of Genoa. And because we wintered over at that little fort, we were among the first out of Greytown and got a beautiful piece of property out there. Tucked up against the mountains it was. But you know, I was restless. And I knew that my riches were not on that farm. Well, you see, I inherited the gift of sight from my Scots ancestors. And I just know things in my head. And I knew that my destiny was tied to that place in the mountains above Washoe. So, I made Mr. Cowan move up there. He built me a little cabin and I began cooking and washing for the miners. I used to take all of their dirty clothing in a pony car over the mountain, down to the hot springs where we had on the property. I sent Mr. Cowan out prospecting. But you know, he was not an ambitious man, and he could not seem to get it into his head that I knew that life held something big for me. So when President Brigham Young told all the states to release their holdings and return to the Great Salt Lake, I sent Mr. Cowan back by himself. You know, I really have my fill with a lot of them in their immoral practice of polygamy. Enough. Well, I sold that cabin. I went straight to Genoa and paid for a divorce. On grounds of desertion. And I got the Washington property as an alimony settlement. Nature, who makes the perfect rose and bird, has yet to make the full and perfect man. I forget who said that, but it's true. Well, the prospectors up there, you know, they were growing in number. And they still wanted me to be cooking for them and doing their washing, so they built me a rather crude little place further up the canyon to the back of Dutch Nick's saloon. Rough bunch they were. Wasn't always easy, being one of the only females up there. But you know, I handled them well enough in a motherly sort of way. Oh, I staked a few claims here and there. Then I bought a claim from a very tired and broke prospector who had a claim right next to one of my borders, a Mr. Lemuel Sanford Bowers. A handsome man he was. And such a gentleman, without even trying or knowing why, and he was modest to boot. So you know what I did? I married him. I knew we were going to have one of the richest mines in Virginia, and soon we did. Mr. Bowers built us a nice little home. Bull Canyon, Grand Point Ravine. I buried 2 babies up there. The highs and lows of it all. You know, the money really started rolling in. So we decided we were going to build a grand mansion down on the Washoe property, befitting our stuff. And we would go to Europe and purchase furnishings for our mansion, and that we did. And it was about this time that our daughter Persia was born. We spent our way across that continent, sending home thousands of dollars in beautiful things for our mansion. Sandy was princely in his devotion to me. Anything I wanted. We adored our daughter. And it was just a few years of this wonderful life that I was a widow. Silicosis had claimed my husband, and Persia and I were alone. And broke. Well, you see, Mr. Bowers had been in charge of the mine and the mill, and yes, we had been very extravagant and very generous to many. I sold the house in Crown Point. I sold some of the Washoe property. But I knew we had to do something because my creditors were after me. All those people from the past turned their backs to my plight. Sandy, Mr. Bowers, came to me in a vision. And he told me to use the property for public entertainment. And so I did. I did this for some time, and it kept us afloat in a manner of speaking. But the creditors, they were too strong. There were too many. And then I lost Persia when she was not even 12 years old from a terrible fever. And you know, things just didn't seem to matter so much anymore. All those friends from the past. Well, they call me the Washoe Seeress, and it suits me well enough. Waxing sentimental, I believe. I'm feeling actually rather extravagant today, and I saw the sweetest little hat down at Miss Harney's, and I'm thinking of going to go pick it up for myself. Perfect, with a lock of green and a bit of pink sparkle, and I want to wear it to the daughter of a charity meeting. I'm thinking when I come home, I would like a full pheasant and a spot of nice strong tea. Thank you, dear.
Actually, I could use some assistance in dressing. You see, I have a very important appointment this afternoon with Mr. William Sheriff. Oh, don't roll your eyes at me. I know what folks say about him, and it could be true that he'd sell his own mother for a brick of silver. But do you realize that through my association with him, I could be gifted stock in the Yellow Jacket mine? What's a little small talk, champagne and recreation, when it could mean my entire future here? Don't you breathe a word of this to anyone. But I sometimes wonder about how much longer I can live by my profession. Why, at the age of 35 or 34, not yet 35, I know that my days are well numbered. And I know what can happen to the likes of me. Why, Cad Thompson is very fortunate to have the grip, and the girls that work for her, I hear she was quite a looker in her day. One option, I suppose, Lucy, would be to take the road your dear sister Lily has chosen, a domestic. Oh, really? Oh, take it easy, really. A domestic, of all things. You really need to have a talk with her. How can you stand your very own flesh and blood slaving away day and night for that eccentric Eilley Bowers? Oh, I just don't know how you stand it. However, women here on the Comstock do not have many options for earning a living. Why, if you're not a domestic, or a laundress, or a seamstress, or a working girl, you don't have many options. Oh, Lucy, do you ever long for adventure? I sometimes do. I remember when Nevada was only a territory and not yet a state. That was just a few years ago, but the good life had yet to come to Virginia, including me. Oh, and those Pony Express rides. Oh, the dangers they faced, the adventures they had. I admit, I have a passionate fondness for one Tony Bob Haslam. Why, he was the most famous of all the Pony Express riders, with the fastest time ever. And now that he works for the Wells Fargo Express and Company, I do get to see him from time to time when he comes into town. Oh, I've never met him. He rides out of town just as fast as he comes in. But if I ever got my hands on him, just what wouldn't I do? Lucy, that's a real man. Now, Lucy, how come you don't have a beau? I mean, with the thousands of men here on the Comstock, and you without one of them? Oh, choose wisely, though. You wouldn't want to have to share him with someone like me. But what could you do anyway? I mean, you wouldn't want to end up with someone like that miraculously ignorant Sandy Bowers, as Mark Twain once called him. Do you know that his stuffy old wife actually thinks I have eyes for her husband? I enjoy watching her bristle like a porcupine every time I insinuate that I do. Now, Lucy, there's a saying. Nature, who has made the perfect bird and rose, has yet to make the full and perfect man. I don't know who said that, but it's true. Now, Lucy, dear, I see that you are trying to hide my laudanum from me. Why are you so concerned? It's not as if I'm addicted to opiates. Laudanum is very useful at keeping my headaches at bay and certain other discomforts. Why, I'm tired of the hypocritical parlor cats that tout the evils of laudanum and opium. As if whiskey was any better. Absolutely not. Why, on more than one occasion, I have witnessed Dan DeQuill demoralized by his love of drink. If the readers of the Enterprise ever knew how often Alf Doten wrote his editorials instead when Dan couldn't make it to the office the next day. Oh, and speaking of demoralized drink, those boys of E. Campus Vice can sure I'm off to my appointment. Wish me luck, mon cher. By this time next month, I could be the wealthiest woman on Mount Davidson. Take that, Miss Eilley Bowers. Ha! We were just talking about you. The girls tell me the brick house is doing very well. We must have lunch sometime. My dear friend Hank Monk, how is your sweet aunt? I haven't seen her in ages. I need to take your stage down to Carson tomorrow for a visit. Why, Father Manon, I am so pleased to meet you today. I have an idea for a charitable event. May I stop by after Mass on Sunday to discuss it with you? Thank you so much. Why, Mr. Smith, I haven't seen you in Virginia City in ages. Why, the last time you were here was July of 1865, and it was hotter than a whorehouse at Nickelmouth. How nice of you to join us tonight. You know, I so enjoyed your demonstration of the pump handle on our brand new fire engine. I find that I can be late for most. If it isn't the Society for the Preservation of Art Antiquities. I have one for you. Eilley Bowers. Miss Laura! Miss Laura! Miss Laura, how are you today? I have no crisis. I am in need of the perfect hat to go with this outfit I am wearing. Do you have anything that will do? Oh, my! Look at all these beautiful creations. And each and every one an original one of a kind. You really have outdone yourself, Miss Laura. Though these ladies' book couldn't hold a candle to you. I tell all the girls that you are the only milliner worth your weight in Virginia. Why, this is a darling little thing. Oh, yet it's a little matronly. This is a creation any woman would die to own. Yet it's not quite right with the ensemble I'm wearing. Well, this is a darling little thing. May I try that one on? Yeah. Oh, why, yes! Yes, Miss Laura, this might do. How much are you asking for this hat today? $4. That much. Oh, Miss Laura, I find that I have forgotten my purse today. I simply can't pay the $4 you are asking for this hat. Not that I don't think it's worth every penny, but I was just wondering if you might extend me some credit. Might I purchase it on account today? Oh, good. This is such an important occasion. It could mean my most desired success here on the Comstock. Oh, let's join us. Well, I need to be off to my appointment, but first, I think I might stop by the amazing Madam Sandy's parlor for a credible reading on my spiritual future. You have been so generous. I do hope you have a pleasant afternoon. You know, Miss Harney,
She may be an independent operator, but she smells like a brothel. And she had the audacity to walk out of here wearing the very same hat that I specifically came down here to purchase. I don't suppose you can imagine my disappointment. I know you pride yourself on making one-of-a-kind items, and I have a beautiful collection. It's just, that was the one that I had hoped to wear to the daughter charity meeting. I don't suppose you could consider working up something a little similar for me. What's this? Ooh. Would you look at that? Oh, Miss Harney, this can be our little secret, with no one the wiser. This is wonderful. What did you tell her? $4? Let's wrap it up. I can't begin to tell you how pleased I am, Miss Harney. Go ahead and put $8 on my account, because I have it in my mind that you won't be seeing your $4. Now, dirt
Shame is a dirt more difficult to wash off than any other. Why, that Bowers woman, for instance, she thinks I should be ashamed of who and what I am. Why? I do for their husbands what they would not. Because their moralistic upbringing has taught them to be ashamed of enjoying anything too much. Poor Mrs. Bowers, she probably will never know how much fun getting dirty can be.
I love money and what it's done for my life. You know, I've been driven to acquire it from a very young age. 'Tis a vulgar topic, to be sure. But money allows me to be associated with fine people, cultured and educated folk, refined society. Wealth is freedom, and I suffered so terribly hard to acquire my wealth. My hands will never be soft and lovely again. Wealth is also pretty and substantial things, fine clothing, jewelry, a beautiful home. Wealth is freedom. Try though I might, I will never forget the stench of the piles of dirty clothing that I washed for all those miners. I will never forget the towers of tin plates that begged scrubbing before the next meal needed to be cooked. I will never forget the stench of those poor hungry men's filthy bodies. Poor Bulette. I only had to deal with their clothing. Well, 'tis in the past, but you know, much as I had, Mr. Bowers was a simple man. But I know he loved me, and me alone. And when it lasted, we had our fun.
Some folks, like that wealthy Mrs. Bowers, so-called queen of the Comstock, think that material wealth belongs to those who have the material wealth belongs to those who can enjoy society events or something like that. She's so diseased and debauched, lawless, crime-ridden, Wild West town. All the while trying to keep the undeserving, such as myself, separate from her and her friends, only to find she cannot control every aspect of life here on Mount Davidson. Why, you think she was going to catch syphilis from one of us every time she brushed me? I ask you, how possible is it to bring culture and society to a town where everyone must arm themselves with a gun and bowie knife, and too much drink puts them to use far too often? Gambling and betting on anything that moves is a main attraction, to be sure. And the citizens of this town have come here to work hard in a thankless death trap called the mines, day and night, night and day. The reality is, most won't ever see their families in the old states again. Lonely and violent men who drink too much, gamble too much, and cruise D Street too much.
Yeah.
That's one of them. A rough clay to mold into fine porcelain? I feel very fortunate that I can travel in all circles of society. Well, maybe not all circles. There was that awkward evening when a miner, Doyle Harris, who works for Mr. Bowers, escorted me to the grand opening gala of the newly built Bowers Mansion. We were not there 10 minutes when that Mrs. Bowers nearly came unwound. Why, under no circumstances was a working girl prostitute doxy whore going to mutter her fine marble floor. We were summarily tossed out, and back to Virginia we went. I didn't mind so much, however. We had more fun, just the two of us anyway. Life isn't all about society. Why, I tend to the injured and sick working girls, and the miners as well. And I stand side by side with the boys of Virginia Company No. 1 as they fight the all too frequent fires that plague this tinderbox of a city. And I work hard at my profession as well. How much longer do I have before my hair turns gray and wrinkles mask my face? For now, I do have the pleasure of enjoying society events and behaving in a cultured manner, as I was taught by my Uncle Jules. I read well, and I'm aware of worldly issues, much more so than any of those old birds in their gilded cages up on 8th Street. I do not play it life. I live it. And I keep my nose out of business that is not my own. That Bowers cow would do well to do the same. Early on, when Virginia wasn't much more than a town, 'twas myself, a few other women, and a handful of miners. 'Twas manageable. But when the fever for riches spread, and the greed for the wealth moved in, many bad people came. There was no law, there was no order, there was no morals, manners, or society. I tried so hard to influence and nurture and grow a place where families could live, children could thrive. But do you know, a fine evening at McGuire's, or Piper's Opera House as 'tis known now, was too often no more than watching bears and dogs pitted against the other to the bloody horrible end. And when you went about the town, everyone was armed. Well, it forced sort of an artificial society upon the men. Well, they were polite and well-mannered enough until they were drunk, and then they just started killing each other. You know, Virginia had changed very much when Mr. Bowers and I were abroad. We were gone for barely a 12 months. And when we came back, the town had been overrun with bad men. Doxies of all colors, houses of sin and addictions. What real estate they occupied. The murders, the rapes, children being run over by wagons. Oh, the fires. There was so than to love about Virginia.
Well, what do you expect from a town that makes a whore an honorary member of the fire department? And to my utter disgust, I was constantly running abreast of her.
Yes, there was a time when I was 16, when my regard for family and morals was little to non-existent. I admit I did not fully understand the importance of family. Why, my desires fell upon the want of fine clothes, travel, and the flattery of men. Family. In my family, women married very young, bore many children, and died of yellow fever, like my own mother when I was small. As a brilliant young quadroon, many people call us mulattoes, what chance of refined society did I have? I saw my only fate as picking cotton and tending to the motherless children of my father and uncles. Why, it was my own Uncle Jules who set me up in business and made sure that I was fluent in current affairs, literature and music, and worldly topics. Oh, all with a genteel approach, as not to offend any gentleman. Later, my cousin Paul helped out when Uncle Jules was away attending to his affairs. Dear Paul, he was like a brother to me. Why, we traveled from San Francisco to Sacramento to the Goldfield mining camps near Angel's Camp. Later, we left for Carson City, and Paul came here to work in the Ophir mine. I stayed in Carson with my dear friend Annie Smith. Annie's Hank Monk's girl. Why, my clientele were ranchers, bankers, lawmen, and politicians of Carson Valley. Did I ever miss my family back home in Louisiana? Well, distance does lend enchantment to the view. But I was all alone when tragedy struck and poor Paul was killed in a cave-in at the Ophir. Why, I could not face the world without the help of the laudanum after that. Laudanum soothes a multitude of grievances. Laudanum is also society's dirty little secret. Why, there are as many or more laudanum users here in Virginia as there are on the road. And family? Family meaning a faithful husband and sickly children. Here on the Comstock, who has an original family? I declare. I have helped more of my friends bury their children than watch them take their first steps. If I ever met the right man who wanted to settle down with me, marry me, and bear his children, I would think about it hesitantly. Only Thomas Peasley has ever made me come close to being devoted to one man. Why, first fire chief in Nevada and foreman of Virginia Company No. 1. Why, Civil War veteran, abolitionist, Catholic, and strong unionist. Why, he was tall, rugged, and strikingly good looking. He had a seductive smile and penetrating blue eyes. We were hopelessly in love for the first time in our lives, and we gave some consideration to marriage. It was widely known that we were devoted to one another, but we never openly flaunted our relationship. Why, it was Tom that after the violent death of my dear friend Jesse Lester, who cheered me up by making me an honorary member of Virginia Company No. 1. Why, I had a new purpose in life, and I took my appointment very seriously. After I learned the news that my dear Tom had been savagely attacked and violently murdered by his rival, Martin Barnum, I was inconsolable. I lived in a stupor of but for Tom, I have never wanted to be a mother, nor have I wanted to take care of another man's home while he ran around town with someone like me. Queen of the Comstock? No. I want to be queen of good times. I believe in a structured society, social order, manners. I believe that rewards are bestowed upon those who prevail over sin and vice. I believe in the truth and purity of my visions and gifts. I hosted luncheons, balls, charitable events. I did everything I could to try to influence this society. I had fabulously beautiful homes, beautiful jewelry, clothing, a wonderful child, an adoring and hard-working husband. You know, when Mr. Bowers and I had the first grand event at our mansion, one of our miners, a lazy sort, was a little predisposed to lust and other things, showed up with a Bulette doxy on his arm. I sent them away into the night. Put that in your pipe and smoke it! Called her out in the dark. Did she think that I wouldn't notice? Did she think I really would choose to mingle with the likes of her? Mr. Bowers always said to me, you don't have to like her, but don't be mean to her. Well, I didn't think throwing her out when she wasn't invited to begin with was being mean. They called me Queen of the Comstock. So why? Why? I would ask myself, why did I devote even so much as a thought to the Bulette doxy when I had so much? She was nothing but a sack of fluff, fighting for survival. And she was winning the battle with the influential men of our community. I also think it was because she made living in this so-called waste of a community seem so easy. Nice hat! Oh, who let you in? No one wants you to. How dare you turn from me? Back. Give it back. How dare you do it? Oh. All right. You remember that violence in my Scottish soul I was telling you about? but I'll send a lovely note saying I approve of it. Well, at least you won't be there. You. Ooh, the petition is your reputation. You are nothing but a sheep shagger! Dirty! Make woolly! Loady! Don't look now. I have held my tongue, and I have held my tongue. And I am not going to hold my tongue anymore. I have seen my drunken pa and my raging ma at each other's throats the livelong day, but never did I see nothing like the two of you. Ladies, you call yourselves. You both work so hard, pull yourselves out of that gutter, find a respectable place and make yourselves part of society. Right back in you fall. I tell you, it gave me hope that maybe someday I could. Well, never mind that. I tell you what, in my lowly station, right here today, I'm standing above the both of you now, ain't I? Help me up. I don't know why I should. You're hard on a woman's knees. Well, Miss Bulette, it seems that our animosity has indeed gotten the best of us. Arse over tip, we were. But you know, I have to tell you, Miss Bulette, I don't feel the hatred for you that I did. I know you have risen above your profession. Many accept you, and so I suppose I must as well. But I want to tell you a couple of other things as well, Miss Bulette. We women must fight for survival in this rough country. The graveyards are full of us. And I have
seen your death, Miss Bulette. I saw you, wrapped in a bloody shroud. And you know, I always thought that you would die young. I knew you would die young. And it would be at the hands of one of your many jealous lovers. I never dreamed, I never thought that it was a vicious and brutal attack by a petty thief after your clothing and jewelry. And I'm sorry, Miss Bulette, I know that you were poor and you were unwell when you passed, yet you still did whatever you could to help others.
Mrs. Bowers, I bear you no ill will. I suppose I hated you because you hated me. And no, I've never known your husband outside of a tip of the hat on C Street. And I cannot deny all the good you have done for this community. Why, I certainly would have a lot fewer customers if it weren't for your help with mine. But I'm not sorry to share these words with you, as it appears I may never have another opportunity to do so in this lifetime. My heart has always understood you. I would never wish on anyone the loss of their beloved husband and their only 3 children. And to live poor and destitute well into your old age. And to die blind and deaf in a poorhouse with no one but strangers to care for your soul. To raise just enough money to bring you back to your beloved Bowers mansion for burial? No, Mrs. Bowers. No one deserves that fate. And I'm no longer sure which one of us died easier. Mrs. Bowers, what do you say? We call a truce.
Well said, Miss Bulette.
Well said, Mrs. Bowers.